Okay. Stumbling around YouTube, looking at different videos on aquaponics and everything else, trying to learn as much as I can, I came across Venturis. Now, I've got this little 60-gallon size air pump. It's got 2 outlets. I've only got one on it right now with a round air stone at the bottom. That's about 1.5 inch air stone down there. It's got a weight tied to it to hold it down. And it's pumping out a decent amount of air. Not great, but for the number of fingerlings I've got in there, it's probably fine. So it's putting out that much air. Now I got to stumbling around watching the videos, and I tried a couple different methods. This is the second one that I tried after watching videos and getting a little bit of an understanding, I hope. That noise that you hear is the intake of the Venturi. Let's see if I'm going to try putting a piece of foam in that later to silence it. Okay. Now then, with parts I already had on hand, as you can see, if you can see the end of the tube there, nothing but clear water coming out of it. Well, a little cloudy. I've got a filter in there right now working on that. I washed my gravel, but still, the minute I started trying to circulate the system, it clouded right up. But anyway, I've got a 1,800 gallon an hour, 1,900 gallon an hour pump, something like that down there. I think it's 1850. Open full blast, pumping water back up that's coming from the sump. Now, I do have an overflow that's feeding the sump because I have way too much water coming back into the tank. But anyway, so I made this Venturi. I'm going to show you in a minute how I made it, but here's the difference it makes. You see the amount of air coming out of that pipe? That is more than enough to completely aerate both of these tanks, because that is every ounce of water coming from that return is in contact with that much air and that much friction. So even though there's no bubbles over here, this water is plenty well aerated because it's coming out of that pipe and going through that much air and that much friction. Oh, and the water that's going from this tank to that tank through the 3-inch pipe back here on the back, it's got more than enough aeration. I can remove that air pump right now with no problems because of this. So there's a, I mean, if you can see it, finger over the hole, finger not on the hole. Venturi removed. Okay. Now here's how I made it. I got to do this quick. I don't have much recording time left. Different stuff from playing around out here. All right, 1-inch pipe, 1-inch pipe, a T. This T reduces from 1-inch pipe to 1/2-inch threaded pipe. So you can see the threads right there next to the tube that's in there. Now the thing is, the base of this pipe, of this hole, is perfectly round and smooth, and it's the perfect size for this 5/8 of an inch tubing. This was connected to something else before. I just grabbed it as a test. I just did this a few minutes ago. That's why there's algae in it. But perfectly sized for 5/8 tubing. Now what I did, let me set the camera down here, see if that'll work. What I did was I took and I shoved the tubing down through the hole, and I turned it in the direction, if you can see inside there, I turned it in the direction that I knew the water would be flowing, and I just pushed it down in there so that it's not really kinked. It's got a slight kink in it, but not much. I could probably get rid of some of that if I turned it a different angle. Let's see. No, it's not going to turn that way. But I pushed the pipe in the direction that the water's already going to be wanting to flow. Okay, so that alone, that's what keeps the water from backing up the pipe. Now the space that this creates and that rapid flow of water going by is what creates the vacuum that allows the air to get sucked down. Now most people working with aquariums and fish have some 5/8 tubing laying around. This 5/8 outside diameter, 1/2 inch inside, 5/8 outside. Most of us, there, now you can read it just like I can. Most of us have some of this laying around. This is like a 5-inch piece that I had as an output on a homemade canister filter that's sitting in that tank right now trying to filter out some of the sediment. Most of us have some of it laying around. This fitting cost about $1.50 maybe, I don't even remember. I had it in there from some stuff that came from my brother-in-law's shed when he passed away. So just extra PVC fittings laying around. I didn't even buy it, but most 1-inch fittings only cost about $1.50 at the most. I know elbows and couplings cost about 46, 48 cents. Tees are up a little bit more than that. The threaded tees cost a little bit more. So if you've already got the tubing laying around and you only have to buy a tee, and you've got some, put the white on the intake, gray on the output. The gray's got a couple of holes drilled in it when I played around with trying to make a Venturi with a tube, but I needed a reducer in line to help create that vacuum as it opened back up. But so it wasn't working, but it works fine for the outtake on this. If I had it was funny, if I had it upright with the two tubes still in it, the tubes acted as intakes and allowed a little bit of air to come through, and it was enough for the vacuum. No air was coming from this unless I blocked the holes of the tubes. So I pulled the tubes out, turned it down into the water, and it's working just great. But there you have it. That's about the cheapest method out of all of the ones I looked at on YouTube for making a Venturi that works as well as this works. Let's see if I can get it back in place without dropping the camera in the water. And there it is, working like a charm. You can see all the frothy water coming out that end. That's a beautiful sight. Beautiful sight. Thanks for watching.